Welcome everyone to the July 23rd, 2024 public hearing for the Fulton City School District's district-wide school safety plan. It's a public hearing and we don't have anyone here signed up to speak, so I will go over and provide a brief overview of the plan, and if there are any questions at that point, we'll take them. So I'll start with the plan itself. It has 4 sections. The first section is general considerations and planning guidelines. We'll start with identification of school teams, and I would like to thank various stakeholders within the district for assisting us with the school safety and security committee, who gave a great deal of time and effort in creating this plan. So that involved everyone from Board of Education representatives, teachers, administrators, and members of the community. So again, I'd like to extend a thanks to those folks for providing their time. So in section 1, the first part of that is a plan review, and of course this part of that plan is the public comment and public hearing portion of it. The plan was posted online July 9th. It'll be online in its draft form for 30 days, after which time we'll ask the Board of Education to approve the plan and adopt it. This is an annual process that occurs on or before October 1st each year. Section 2 is our risk reduction and prevention intervention section. We start with our community resources. Again, we'd like to thank the Fulton Police Department and the Fulton Fire Department for actively participating in the plan development. We also look to them for their assistance in various activities like our drills, our safety training, and related activities. Program initiatives within the district itself. We have a number of initiatives that we use as part of our safety and security protocols. We have a PBIs program, our positive behavior intervention and support program, our trauma sensitive school framework, our Dignity for All Students Act and training and instruction, and also our school-based community agency partnerships. Section 3 of part 1 are training drills and exercises. We conduct a number of trainings and drills throughout the year. All of our school staff are required to undergo annual training on the building level emergency response plan. And this is an annual training that is completed prior to September 15th. The Fulton City School District also conducts required multi-hazard drills to be held throughout the school year. We have 8 evacuation drills and 4 lockdown drills. The plan does spell out further details regarding those particular activities and drills. I won't get into that particular detail. That's available online for folks to review. Part 4 of section 1 is our implementation of school security. All buildings are monitored during the school hours, and they're monitored by designated Fulton City School District personnel. We also use a mix of technology and personnel for our safety and security purposes, including surveillance cameras both inside and outside of our buildings. We adopted a single point of entry policy, and we also use a visitor management system called Raptor. Section 5, Part 1 is our vital educational information, and we provide our district office maintains information concerning student population, staff, transportation needs for each building. We have obviously contact information in case of an emergency. Part B, Section 1 is early detection of potentially violent behaviors. Again, we have a number of systems and protocols in place to assist us in that effort. And we have training programs that we both implement and will be implementing throughout the year. Those are early warning and timely responses, threat assessments, early detection of potentially violent behaviors, safety and security trainings, and crisis response trainings. Moving forward, Section 3 of the plan is our response section. That's notification and activation of internal and external communications. We have a series of technology and protocols that we utilize as a crisis response, again involving technologies such as telephone blasts, email blasts, and so on, and other information related to technology that we cannot share publicly. We have an emergency response plan. The district's incident command team includes members of the administration team. That starts with the superintendent of schools, Our executive directors, the chief of operations and finance, director of human resources, and other designees that are named by the superintendent. We have physical resources as well. Again, there's quite a long list of those resources, including everything from fire extinguishers, cell phones, fax lines, phone lines, computer technology, first aid kits, and so on, that are part of our comprehensive plan. Section C, our situational response. We have, as part of this plan, we're required to adopt responses for various crises. And the first one listed here are natural hazards. There are a series of protocols and steps in response to that particular type of crisis. We also have a series of responses for both technological and biological hazards, adversarial, incidental, and human-caused threats, and pandemic threats and responses. As of last year, sorry, 2 years ago, we had to adopt, as part of our pandemic response, an actual pandemic response plan and a remote learning plan. Those are also available as links on our website. The last part of the plan is section 4, which is recovery. There are various steps as part of our recovery plan, depending on the actual crisis or hazard. And those are kept in the district office and implemented as needed, depending on the particular response. The last part of the plan are a series of appendices, which are examples of resources that we might use during a crisis and as a response to a crisis. These include things like our shell cards, our contact information, and other related information. Another piece of information there is our student code of conduct. And with that is the review of our district-wide safety plan. Thank you very much.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our meeting this evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order and have someone move action 1.02.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. In the event of an evacuation this evening, if we have to leave the building, we can venture out through door 6 or out through the main library doors and go to either the right or left to as far away from the building as possible. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public forum tonight, we do have a group of one on the ballot or on the register for tonight. Robert, Briggs, and your varsity team. Yeah, you all come up.
Good evening, board members. My name is Robert Briggs, and beside me are my fellow senior basketball players, Landon Wakefield, Keaton Kelly, and Mr. Sherwood. I'm speaking on behalf of all of our senior players, one of which could not make it tonight. Individually, everything that we have said tonight, we have shared our individual opinions with Mr. Owens. Tonight we are here to ask the board for a careful and thoughtful process when considering our future varsity basketball head coach, to ensure that our student athletes' voices are heard and taken seriously. We have met together and had multiple discussions on ideas that should be considered in the hiring of a new coach, including high school basketball coaching experience. High school basketball coaching experience is very different than you would see in a travel or AAU setting. Our recognition of our program's success and values. This word that we wear across our chest, I'm sure all of you have seen it in our community, culture. It means something to us. We built that. Next up, the continuity within our program and keeping consistent with the recent success that we have had. Someone who steps in and ready to be successful and knows our program and our players and our system and what works best. Next up, one of our more important ideas is keeping the connections with our community and our youth programs. If any of you don't know, every Saturday during the knee-high season, all of our athletes in our program that are 3 to 4 years old up until 17 or 18 are at the War Memorial for numerous hours a day. Most importantly, we would like a decision based on what's best for the program, not what certain opinionated community members want. And as a current FCSD student athlete, I unfortunately can tell you that there is a perception within our community that some decisions are made to appease the few and opinionated. The culture we as student athletes build, again, this word on my chest, that we as student athletes have built, needs to be maintained and protected from those in our community that are trying to compromise it. The trust and good reputation that we have built as a program needs to be continued on, and that starts with our relationships. The people in our program have great relationships and are known as great people, and we would like to keep it that way. Our senior class has gone through many challenges, including COVID and 3 coaching changes within the last year. However, throughout all of these setbacks, this summer playing basketball has managed to be one of the more fun we have played in years, and we're still maintaining our success. When we look for our potential match, it's who will care about us and who will keep our family values at heart. Who is going to care about how we do in school or how our days went? And who's going to shape us into the best future community members, husbands, fathers, sons, and people we can be? And to leave all you board members with one last thought. Do we belong? Can we speak up? And is what we do important?
That was perfect timing.
Thank you.
Thank you and your teammates for showing up and speaking with us this evening. I can tell that this is very passionate for you. I also can let you know that I have no idea who is going up for this position.
Yeah.
I and my fellow board members, we are not part of the interview process.
Yes, we are aware of that.
Okay, I just wanted you to make sure that you knew that. So we'll know once somebody's been picked, but I know, are you? do you sit, I know maybe Mr. Ells, there's got to be a committee
Well,
that's...
it's still in process, so we do have a
Yeah.
very tight process that we're following. We did interview several people, and the decision has not been made yet. I suspect it will be by the next board meeting, I would hope.
Okay, perfect. All right, so hopefully we'll all know
And we
very soon.
are considering your opinions, I promise.
Thank you.
You are.
And thank you to all those that have reached out to me as well. I appreciate that a great deal, students and parents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, 1.06, to approve July 9th reorganization meeting minutes. Somebody move that? Tim? And Tim? All those in favor? Aye.
Who was the second, Brenda?
Both Tims. Opposed, abstaining, passes 700. Action 1.07, approve the July 9th regular meeting minutes.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, passes 700. On tonight's President's Report, we have a few meetings that are coming up. July 24th, that's tomorrow, we have our board retreat from 9 to 3 over at the high school. I hope to see everybody there. I got an opportunity, and so did Mr. Crandall and Mr. DeJalorme, to meet Heather Zeller, who will be doing our retreat. She was at the Rural Schools conference that we went to last week. She's got a lot of energy. She's excited to come and meet with us, and she's got a full day planned of all sorts of things that I'm excited for her to bring to us. She's got a great personality. I think you guys are going to like her.
That's in the library as well, right?
Yes, in the library. I do believe that some of our admins will be meeting us at 11 o'clock and enjoying lunch with us and conversation. So, we can talk about some things together, and I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for joining us. August 13th and August 27th, we have our regular board meeting. The NYSBA convention, if you have not let Mrs. Perry know, if you could please let her know tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
she's
great.
giving me the
So
finger
far,
there.
I only have 2 people. Fallon, you didn't commit, and Laura, you committed. Jen, did you not commit?
I'm not committing. I'm not
Okay.
going.
Fallon, do you know when you're gonna?
I'm not sure, I'll let you know by.
Okay, I just want to get the paperwork in the
She
works.
wants to be ready to press that button as soon as it comes live. All right, thank you. Rural Schools Summer Conference. Myself, Mr. DeJalorme, and Mr. Crandall were able to go to Lake Placid and meet with many superintendents and board members from around the state. It was very interesting. It was my first Rural Schools meeting. I have never been able to attend one of those, and it was a lot less overwhelming sometimes than the bigger convention in October. So I got to talk with people a little bit more and learn what they're doing around the state. What I'm finding is a lot of the things that we are dealing with here in Fulton, so are our neighbors to the north, south, east, and west. I know that I have a few books, and Mr. DeJalorme might have picked up a couple others. One of the retreats that one of the sessions I got to go to was The Power of Habits. Mr. Polvino told me that he has seen these books, heard of Mr. Covey, and has used this in his past district. I love this particular session because it made students responsible for their learning and the leadership of their school. They had individual goals that were set, classroom goals that were set, and school-wide goals that were set. I think the one thing that really got me from the principal up in Lake George was when students want something to happen in their school, he doesn't say no, doesn't say yes either. He tells them to figure out how we can make it. The cool thing was the kids wanted a koi pond. The kids got a koi pond, and they got the community to pay for this and help put in this koi pond. I mean, there's other things that they did as well, but I just loved how they really pushed and made the students leaders of themselves. We always talk about how our kids have a voice, So they talked a lot about the students' voices and stuff. So that was something that was pretty cool. I also got to learn a little more about College Board. I know that we use College Board. SATs, I believe, are going to be all going online this year, next year, within the next couple of years. There won't be school sites, from what I'm hearing from College Board. And then there's other, and you guys tell me if you've heard about it or you haven't, something called the Big Future. Have you heard about the Big Future? It's not to replace Naviance, but it is to help students, and we have access to it with our College Board that we already have, learn and plan their college experience and how they're going to pay for it and how they're going to get there. So there's so much more, and I mean, I work in high school, that I didn't even, my kids have gone through school, I didn't realize that there was all of this other stuff that College Board offered for our students. So it might be something that, I have more information if you want to look into it. And the other, I liked that the three of us all picked different things to go to, and it was nice to do that. The other one was the root cause of student mental health. You probably already all are aware of this. We all have kids, we all have students, most of us have students, students are children's friends. Biggest cause, social media, social media, social media. So what can we do? I'm asking our administrators, what can we do to help our kids change that environment, at least while they're in school, because we know it rolls over and it's causing depression, it's causing a lot of things happening in our schools. And I know that you guys already look at these things, but the short term versus the long term, where can we be? How can we help our students better navigate that road? Mr. DeJuan, you might have been in that particular one as well. I think we might have crossed one path. Was it? They talked about the TikTok ticks. Were you in that particular session? Did you guys know that this is a real disease? TikTok ticks, that kids are, somebody said yes maybe, they're developing symptoms that are kind of like the Tourette's, but it's because of this TikTok and all of the social media that they're on all the time. Ms. Hutchinson, maybe you have heard of these things before. That blew my mind. I mean, I know our kids, I have students who have told me, no, I have to see my phone. Like, I have to touch it like every 10 seconds, but I didn't realize just how tough this is on our kids. So.
I think it's kind of the evolution of that phantom vibration, you know, where we feel like our phone's ringing because we're so attached to our phones, and our phones don't even have to be in our pocket, but we're always checking it so much that we still reach for it.
Yeah.
And I think as this evolves, but like you said too, Brenda, this is something east, west, north, south.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where it's a huge issue. I mean, I personally, you know, I've tried to back off from social media to try and encourage it less in my personal life, but I think that's one of the things that, you know, how do we prepare? You know, I don't think it's going anywhere. So
It's
I
a
think
new world for our students.
You know, and
their
but I
life.
think even as adults, you know, we deal with the same things. You know, we have a little bit of a different background coming to it. Some of us not having it when we were kids at that age, but I think it's how do we bridge that gap of, you know, me not having TikTok as a kid to someone who never knew a world without TikTok.
Yeah.
And, you know, once those things are ingrained, how do we help people kind of step back, take a break, you know, get out of those habits? But like you've said too, I think it's something we need to look at, you know, because it is the #1 issue, like you said.
Yeah. Mr. DeJuan, would you like to share your experience at rural schools?
I'm not prepared. I didn't know we were going to present.
Oh.
I don't have my notes with me.
Okay, no
Perhaps the
worries.
next meeting.
No, perfect, perfect. Mr. Panda?
Well, we learned a lot of stuff, especially AI. That's going to be something. I mean, between job losses, and it's just going to, basically, you're going to learn anything you want. And then we had our lawyers, they did a presentation at the beginning of the conference, telling us what was going on with the state and different things, and that was interesting. But that's it.
Yeah. And those of you who are going to the law conference on the 1st, I'm sure they're going to dive deeper into the things that they shared with us at rural schools, because it'll be more for what we need to know. So, yes. Also was able to attend the leadership conference in Albany, and Mr. DeJuan, you will bring that your shared experience next
Yes.
week as well with that. or next meeting. It was great to be able to go there as well. I did bring the leadership education event paper for all the sessions we went. There is a QR code on here if you guys want it. You can scan it tonight or whenever. You would get all of the presentations that...
PowerPoint presentation.
Yep, all the PowerPoint presentations that we got to see. And it was nice because we each hit something different. And I can't wait for Mr. DeJerome to bring back his thoughts on, because you attended a session that had student panel.
Yes.
And you had some great ideas. So next meeting, we're going to talk about those, because that was one of the ones I just drew the short stick. I didn't realize that the students would be speaking there. But at this convention, we were able to hear remarks from SED and some of the things that are going on and what they are coming down. They talked a little bit about the Blue Ribbon Committee and how they are going to be moving to a one diploma, whatever that looks like, because they're still in the process of talking with all of the districts around the state, but with their special endorsements and seals and how we make that work. Big talked about chronic absenteeism. They know that we're all dealing with this. They're trying to keep it at our local levels for us to kind of figure out. So sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they weren't as helpful as I was hoping to hear. Cell phone usage, teacher shortages. They talked a lot about the teacher shortages. AI, like Mr. Crandall said, we talked a lot about that as well. That's coming. And I do recall, Dr. Lisi, that we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. And from things that I had heard, I wish I could remember his name. Was it Dr. Daggett? Daggett. Nick and I were talking if we could ever get him to come here and speak to your staff. He is fantastic.
Sure. Yeah, to talk to the teachers about it.
It would be a wonderful professional develop, or maybe we could work through BOCES and see if it's one of those things that we could, pool in for all of those districts. What do we do that twice a year? We work district-wise with BOCES. But some of the stuff he said, and I had said to you at the last meeting, scares me. But the biggest thing that I took back from him was, how do we give our teachers and our admins their nights and their weekends back? And AI seems to be the way once we get our people to learn it. So I'm hoping you're not jumping into it super fast, that you give them the opportunity to learn this, because this is going to help with, they were telling us about how you can, for our folks who write the IEPs, it's not going to take days and days to write these anymore, because it can go right to the home school district and it finds the program.
Dr. Daggett shared a story. He has a special needs daughter who's now 52, nonverbal. She likes to touch people, likes to touch animals. But if you're not understanding what she's trying to communicate, she gets angry. So he and his wife put all the parameters in to AI. It took him 7 seconds to print out a 17-page IEP for him. Yeah. And he said it was the most thorough that he had ever seen. So
in the format that school district would have used for where his daughter would have gone. Yeah. So I mean, I know how much work goes into that, and I know how much our teachers and our staff, they lose a lot of their nights and weekends doing these things. So from like grading and busing schedules and just different things. AI won't necessarily take jobs away. It's just those people who know how to put in the pinpoints. It's going to work. The prompts, thank you. It's going to work great for them.
The more specific you are in a prompt,
yes,
the better results you're going to get.
Yeah. So,
very interesting.
I can't wait to see where that brings us down the line, but my thought after listening to Dr. Daggett was slow is better for our people to learn it, and then they can just, whatever makes them work easier. Not less, just easier. So I think it was a great opportunity to be able to go to both of those conferences, sorry, in this past week. So I appreciate spending some time with a couple of my board members too. So that was great. You didn't go to the second one, so, and you're going to bring us back some information. I can't wait to hear about the students. That whole thing is fantastic. I think that's it. I think I've taken up enough of your time on that. I could talk for days, I feel. Next thing up on our agenda is the executive session change and start discussion. So would somebody like to send out some pros or cons? Who wants to start off the discussion for?
I'm the one that brought it up last time. We're just talking about starting it or having executive session prior to meetings. That way, if there's anything to be discussed at the meeting, we can discuss it prior to the meeting.
Right.
And not after it. Hopefully, won't be any surprises at a meeting, rather than waiting until after the meeting and having to bring it up at the 2 weeks later.
Right.
So that was just
when I first got on the board, that's the way we did it. But I found that I think things were rushed because you knew you had your board meeting, whatever time it was back then, 6:30.
7:30 was the board meeting, 6:30 was exec.
Yeah, and
She had an hour before.
But then a lot of times we had to go in afterwards because we couldn't finish what we had to do.
But I think if we go before, if we could at least address the concerns we have with what's on the agenda, and then if we still have like personnel matters or things like that, we could just still discuss those after. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally am good with the way it is functioning, because I think the before, I think it does do that, with the timeline. I think also you run into, what if there isn't it, then you're kind of around here, especially I would think on our administrators, different people, that's time that could be used, doing something right up to the meeting here. But I also think another aspect is we are getting the stuff. I know Gene's always checking in with me because I have the most problem with the technology. Tim, do you have this? Tim, do you have this? And I'm like, yep, I got it, Gene. I got the alert and everything. I'm able to look at and read it, ahead of time, and if I do have an issue. But I also know that if I had a major issue that I need to talk with there's nothing that prevents us, I guess, from doing it before if there were an emergency discussion. Because we can call I could call for executive session right now if I felt like we needed to have one before we actually got there. So I didn't know if we needed to formally change, especially because Tim was saying, sometimes you do run into that, would it be better to, if we needed to go before, enter an emergency session and then continue with our meeting regular versus the, setting it up before, just so we don't have to run into those different issues.
And also, a lot of times we were late to start the board meeting. Sometimes it'd be 5 minutes, 10 minutes late.
You mean to come back into session?
Yeah, to come
You have
to start the regular meeting on time.
Yeah, okay. Any other thoughts or concerns? I mean, what time, if it was something you wanted to move early, what time would you say? Because that's what we would have to vote on. So if I said tonight, hey, do you guys want to start at 5? Do you want to start at 5:30? What time were you thinking?
Well, I wasn't necessarily thinking early, just before. Right now, if we go to executive session and people want to stay
Yeah.
until after we get out of executive session, they might be here until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I just felt that doing it before is going to hold us to a timeline.
So what time if we have to have an executive session, what time would be a good time to start? Because our meetings now start at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock then.
So
5:15, 5 o'clock, 5:15.
Okay. Okay, so how about a raise of hands for those who think it's a good idea to go, it's a good idea to do it whichever way we're doing it, but if we're going to move it, how many of you are in favor of moving it earlier than after? So the meeting would start about 5:15.
I'm for, I agree with Tim. If it's something that we need to do, I think a 5 or a 5:15 start would be great. Instead of changing and having a 5 or a 5:15 start all the time, I don't see it as necessary right now.
Okay.
I really have no opinion because I'm retired, so whatever everybody wants to do is fine with me.
There she goes, telling us every day is
Yeah.
Saturday. Mr. Crandall?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Whatever anyone agrees with, I'm good. I'm good with it.
Okay.
If it's 5:15, I don't care. If it's after a board meeting, I'm good with that.
So if it's something you think we need to talk about, maybe sometimes it's like
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
I go for
Connors
that
and,
too.
okay, all right. Ms. Hutchinson?
I'm for moving it prior. I know I often have a lot of questions about things that are on the agenda, or
That's
I
why
at least
it
like
takes so
to, yes, I know. Discuss things that I'm maybe not as comfortable or want a little bit more clarity on. And I also think that putting a time limit is beneficial. Like if we know that, like, okay, we have to hurry up because our meeting starts at 6, we tend to move a little bit faster. And then I also think of our administrators that are also sitting in the room with us. They've been here all day working, and it'd be nice to get them home to their families sooner than later.
Okay.
So I just find that it would be more beneficial all around. Occasionally, if we do have to go into executive session after, that's fine, but at least it works better for us to answer any questions we have, and I would think the administrators to get them home so they're not here till 11 o'clock or later sometimes.
Okay. And I mean, I'm fine either way, whatever we decide to do. What is?
I just have one more
sure,
thing.
sure.
If I feel, this is just my personal opinion, if we go into executive session for something, it's something that is serious and involves discussion. And sometimes whatever we're talking about is obviously important. And to put a time limit on it, I feel might not be the best in all situations, because sometimes brainstorming does take a little bit more time than just the 40 minutes, and we always want to do what's best and have everybody heard and have an intimate and thorough discussion about whatever is taking place.
That's true too. And to think if we do finish early, like today, the budget or the safety hearing, it took about 8 minutes. And so then those of us who were here, we sat around, which is fine because we got to visit and, you know, learn some things, but just have to keep in mind too that we can't start the meeting until 6 o'clock. So
And I feel
if we're
like with that,
done in 10 minutes, then we're still sitting around for the next 40.
there's that waste of time, but also we have to be clear, if we're going into executive, we have to be talking on those matters that we're going in to talk about. So it's not like we can finish in 10 minutes and then have a whole other discussion on all these other things. We have to stick to what we're going in to talk about. So I just think that leads to, like you said, you know, say there's that extra time and, you know, we want to discuss something that might be better off, you know, workshop better off in meeting because it's something that should be discussed in the public. You know, we just have to make sure, you know, we finish in 3 minutes, then we're sitting, you know, for the 57 until the meeting, just so we're not going against that policy.
Okay. And I mean, I know that we're going to make this decision, but I just want to ask how the administrators, I mean, input. Like, are you guys fine if we have to do 2 executive sessions? Would you be able to get us the information in a timeliness where we'd be able to discuss it and get back out here for 6 o'clock? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we were down this, as Tim has indicated, back when I first started here, our executive session was at 6:30. Yeah. And if we started at 6:30, there were times we were done at 6:45, 6:50, and then we waited for 40 minutes for the meeting, which started at 7:30. There were other evenings where we didn't have any items, so we would contact the board members during that day, because sometimes there's last minute things, rare, but they do come up. And we would make the adjustment. We'd call each board member, Jean would call, and we would let them know there is no executive session tonight. We start at 7:30. So we were able to work with it. Well, now it would be 6. That in the day it was 7:30. But it would be 6 p.m. would be the hard start, because that's when our public meeting is.
So you would have to let us know, I mean.
If there weren't going to be any items.
I know sometimes we think we're coming in like now and we don't have executive session, but then when we get here, you're like, you know what, this.
Pretty rare that we don't know, like today.
So you're going to give us an opportunity to, like, we're not, you know, we're going to not know it, like, you know, 5 minutes before. Oh, hey, you know what, I don't need you guys. Don't come.
Yeah. So like tonight's item after for executive session tonight is the result of yesterday's
Okay. All right, so we will
situation.
have our discussion and,
So,
I mean, I'm
for the
fine.
next meeting on the 13th of August, are we executive session before, or are we executive
Well,
session
that's what
still
we're,
after?
that's what we're,
Well, I
that's
guess
what we're
there's
gonna figure out
two
right now.
things, Brenda.
Yep.
I guess the first one is, one, are we moving executive session? And does that mean we're still keeping the other one? So I guess
For
that's
6
even
o'clock,
two
yeah.
things.
We've
And
already-
then three, which time is it going? Did you say we already decided?
We did decide that 6 o'clock is our regular meeting.
No. I'm
Oh, okay.
talking about, are we going to move executive session? If we move it, do we get rid of the second one, assuming we get everything done in the first?
Oh, yep, if we move.
And what
yep.
time would it be if we do agree to move it?
And so Mr. DeJarm just had recommended 5:15, if that works for everybody that wants to move, that, if it gets moved. And then Mr. Polvino would let us know if we don't have to come early. But odds are we may need to stay for a second session, but that isn't necessarily scheduled. It's just if we need to finish it.
And if we were
that's what we
doing
do.
contractual negotiations, for example, we could start that, and that would be something, we wouldn't be having a decision that evening, but you could go back into executive session afterwards and
had
just continue
questions.
the conversation. That would, there's nothing being voted on that evening.
5:15 doesn't work for me, for the majority of the time, just because of coaching. I get out usually like at 5:20. I have to wait for the last student to be picked up.
Okay. So then you would
So-
be able to get here before,
By like 5:30,
you'd get to be here by 5:30.
usually, yeah. Yeah.
Do members feel like 5:30 would be enough time for an executive session for those of you who want to move it?
I mean, that's like moving, I was unsure. I did not know that this was like a thing. That would really, that affects,
Yeah.
just because I coach and I coach at an earlier time. So usually I'm out to get here for 6.
Yeah.
So that's a big change for me personally.
No, and on the personal level, I understand, because a lot of times I have the baby, so,
Yeah.
but, you know, anything after
An earlier
5
start-
should be fine.
An earlier start will definitely impact my schedule.
Okay.
Huge.
All right, and then we had 2 who didn't care either way. Did we decide that,
Vote on it.
yep, we're gonna, but I'm just trying to get all the pieces in place. Did we decide that maybe we only want to move it when we need it? And then if something, or are we just going with 5:15? When I throw the vote out to you guys.
If you
5:15.
decide to do an executive session at 5:30, let's say that's a happy
Or
meal,
5:30.
we could then, if there was something very specific to the agenda that evening that
Okay.
needs to be addressed, that's
Perfect.
what I would say would be the number one discussion.
And then
And
everything
then
else
if
would
there
be
was
after.
contractual, negotiations to discuss, I'd probably say we could start, but we need to start our meeting at 6 o'clock, and then so we come out of executive and go back into executive.
I just want to say from a communication to the community as far as times and things like that, the protocol is you open the meeting and then you go
Yes.
into executive session. So if at the last minute we're not going to have executive session and we've already told the community this is how it's going to go, that might be a little bit of a flux too.
I feel like this is a really big change, a very big sudden change that I was definitely not.
But I
prepared
guess
for.
the
Well, we've
second
been
thing
talking about it
is,
for
Well,
the months, yes.
Brenda?
5:15, 5 o'clock, that's a big jump.
does
Yeah,
anything
oh,
in the
definitely,
status quo prevent us from doing the executive session at 6 o'clock? Because we could start the meeting and go into it. We wouldn't have to tell the public because it's still the meeting starting at 6. So we could still essentially use the same time that we want to start at. And if there's an emergency and even if it were, I came to the meeting at 5:30 and went up to Brian and said, Brian, we really need to go into executive session and start this. I'm going to announce it right away. Is that okay? He tells me, okay, let Gene know. And then we can do that. I don't think there's anything preventing us from doing that in the
I
status.
just want to make sure that the community would have the correct times of when we start. We want to make sure we're transparent about that.
And if there are individuals coming for presentations, or let's say there were students coming to present things, or families were here, what would happen is, you want your meeting, if it's starting at 6, you want to be timely for the families that are coming, or 6:30. We were always 6:30, now we're 6. So if that's the case, I think that's where we were talking about, if we meant to come in, we should always start our meeting at 6 or as close to 6 as possible to accommodate what we've posted. And as I said, if the decision is to go before with executive session, then We just need to hit those items that may be specific to the agenda that evening. As Fallon has indicated, if there's something questioning, that kind of thing, needed discussion. And then that we're done in a timely manner so that at 6 or as close to 6 as possible, we come out and we run our general business meeting, as we always do. And then afterwards, we re-enter executive session at the conclusion of the meeting to complete the conversation that may need to be had.
Mrs. Perry, let me ask you this. Do we have a resolution on the agenda tonight to do the vote?
We don't need a resolution.
Okay, we
But
don't.
I think since there's a little bit of discussion, the legal part of it, that we want to get out to the community and what we should definitely investigate that. Because I don't think that you can, you can't just say at the last minute, now we don't have, the timing is there. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you have to open the meeting, then you go to executive session. So I think we should just put the question out there to Ferrara and clear it up before we get too far into it.
All right, so Mrs. Perry will reach out to Ferrara and we will, at the next meeting, definitely decide once we know what our legal, does that sound fair to everybody? Okay.
So really the issue is moving it to the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, just moving it to the
Having
beginning.
it or not having it is the problem.
Moving our meeting to 6 PM and then having most people work until 5 o'clock. So, you know what I mean? So that's a big, not all of us are retired on the board, and that's just like a big ask for always.
So you're gonna find out then on the always part versus the occasional.
Right.
Okay.
Occasional, like, you can make anything usually happen occasionally, but always, that's a big ask.
All right, I just want to make sure that it's working community-wise. Like, I didn't even, I'll be honest, I didn't even think about what Mrs. Perry just brought up about the legal aspect of the moving and sometimes.
When you start a meeting, it has to be open a meeting.
Yeah, so, all right. So we're making the final decision at the next meeting in August. Everybody's kind of had the idea to digest what everybody's talked about, what our concerns are, our pros and our cons. And if we do decide to move it, it's going to be at 5:30. And then we should be able to get everything in. If not, we'll just meet at the end.
And Brenda, is that an optional 5:30 or a 5:30?
That's what Mrs. Perry is going to find out to make sure, because.
What do we want to happen? I guess that's where I'm still confused.
Well, if we have a member who can't make it here between 5 and 5:15, then we can't really do the executive session all the time without the member. That's just my.
That's how I feel. I just was wondering, is that what we're asking Jean to look at? Is we can have an optional free?
She is going to look at the legal aspect to make sure that we can say, hey, we're gonna have an executive session this time, but then the next meeting, no, we don't need it, we're gonna just cancel it. She's gonna look at the logistics of how that works so we can get that information out to our community and follow within the law.
And is that emergency meeting, just to clarify, if we get that approved that it's okay, is that going to be always our executive session? Or if no one has an urgent thing, we wait till regular executive session?
It would be the new change if that's what the majority of the board wants. It would always then be at 5:30.
Okay.
Okay?
So if we have executive session, it will always be at 5:30 if we can choose to have it optional. That's what Jean's looking at. Okay. That's just what I wanted to clarify.
Sound good for everybody? Okay. All right. Last thing on the president's report is the discussion about the committees. I know that you guys have had a couple of weeks to think about what committees that you wanted to be on. I know a few people have kind of thrown out their thoughts already, but now we're going to make it official. So we're going to start with policy. We can have 3 members for policy meeting. They are at 6 o'clock. They are virtual. Who is interested in doing that? Lori, Fallon, and Tim. Fallon and Tim Connors. Okay, perfect.
Okay, Fallon, Tim, Lori, yes?
Yes. All right. Audit, I know that I have to be on that one, and Mr. DeJalorme. And then we are looking for 1 more member. These are scheduled usually bi-monthly, sometimes once a month. Whenever Dr. Lisi has something to throw out there at us, when we need to look at our internals and externals. They are most often virtual. but sometimes we are brought in to do them in person. So we're looking for one more person. Hopefully somebody is like really financially on top of things, because we did just lose Mrs. Papalardo. Or someone's just interested in learning more about that committee.
I am not interested in audit committee now. I would not be the first choice. I'm just being honest.
I'll do it. You need 3?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right. We are set with Brenda, Nick, and Fallon for audit, Mrs. Perry. Mrs. Perry, did you get that?
Oh, sorry,
Did you
yes.
get all 3 of us?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Health, safety, and facilities. 2 members, but we can take 3. Lori? Jen? Okay, well, we're going to be putting names in a hat because that is Lori, Jen, Tim.
Jen, oh wait, are Jen and Tim on one though?
I am not.
No, but here's the thing with, they are always at 3 o'clock. They are most often going to be online, but sometimes Dr. Lisi pulls us in to do them in person. I know that Fallon has been on. Nick has been on as both board member and community member. Tim, they are always virtual.
I know. COVID's over.
But
Let's meet in person. I think we
all
get
right,
more
so-
done.
All right. So I need my 3 people who are going to always be able to be there at 3 o'clock, who are always going to be able to
Just take
on.
my name off.
And
I'm not going to fight about this, honestly.
I mean, I've been on it for years, but I'm going to pull back.
Yep.
Lori, Nick, and you 2 decide then? Who's doing it?
Me.
All right. Oswego County School Board Association, 1 meeting per month, sometimes every other month. Those are in person. We just lost Donna Blake to retirement. We do have a new
Tom Siapa.
Siapa will be taking over that. We do not know the days at this point, but more information to follow per Mrs. Perry. I think last year you might have shared a spot?
Shared with Jess.
So I'm not sure how that worked, if it worked out well and somebody wants to share spots, or if someone wants to take the full spot. It's up to you guys.
What does that one entail?
That is in person all the time, and you're meeting with the Oswego County School Board, all of them.
And now that's virtual.
That is not virtual, it's in person all the time.
And where do they do that one?
That sometimes changes. And Mrs. Perry is always on top of, I mean, Jen, you can speak more to that because you did it last year.
Just attended every single meeting.
Okay, so Jess attended every single meeting, and it's usually at like,
So they do presentations at city, they have different speakers come, they set that all up, it's open to the public, but it's their meeting, presentation, whatever they call it.
and so you would be repping Fulton, no?
In Fulton?
A lot of times at city, mostly at city.
That's right. No.
Okay. You want to do that one? No. No? Anybody else? Nick, I say that your name was, you had asked Mrs. Perry, I don't know if it's something you're still interested in or not.
What else you got on?
Well, you and I are the voting delegates, and then the other thing was the capital, it is not necessarily a committee, but the capital improvement meetings that happen
I'd
once or
rather do
twice.
capital improvement.
You want to do that?
So what's this one we're talking about again, Brenda?
Okay.
Oswego County School Board Association, Tim?
Do you go, Brian?
No, I do not. That's a group of
Okay.
representatives from each of the
Sorry, I
school
thought
districts
you
in the
had said
county.
superintendents, someone had said.
No.
No. So, Nick, those meetings are always at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you said they were virtual.
All right, you want Oswego County?
No, we were jumping.
Tim just asked me.
He did, but we had jumped ahead to the other
Oh.
one, and then Tim went back.
Oh,
So the capital,
so the capital project meeting is at 9 a.m. every other Friday.
Okay.
We've had board members sit in on the past and listen to
I
the
was on
project.
it. The last
Yeah,
one I was on, yeah.
sounds about right.
So if you're interested,
Well, I
I
need
can
one
send
more
you
person for here,
information.
though.
Okay. So is it Nick? Is that?
No, I can't
Okay,
do
we're
that.
gonna just have one
There's just
person,
no-
Brian, or
that night.
alternate?
Yeah, Nick is interested.
Okay.
All right, so then I will do the Oswego County School Board. I am asking for somebody to please be my alternate.
I will be the alternate.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. That should cover it for our committees. And that will do it with the president's report, and we're going to move on to Mr. Paulina's superintendent's report.
Okay, well, thank you. It's hard to believe we're already halfway through July, heading towards August next week, and a lot of things going on here in the district. I just wanted to speak verbally just about the school readiness and capital improvement. I met this morning, every Tuesday morning, I meet with the director of facilities and his associate. All 6 schools are off to a good start as far as the summer cleaning and preparations for 2024-25. I don't want to jinx us. We seem to be ahead a little bit, but knock on wood, we're in pretty good shape at this point in time. We're going to monitor very closely. Next week, those of you that are around Fairgrave, it will be offline electric-wise. Next week, they're doing all the setup for the switch gear, which is all the new electrical service coming into the school that will then be utilized in that school for the future projects that we have coming up. So that's going to be going on. It'll be a week, and that team will be working out of, I believe, the Ed Center for that week. So feeling good about that. The schools look good, and I've been doing spot checks. We'll start walking the buildings next Tuesday. On our Tuesdays, we'll start meeting them for our Tuesday mornings in the buildings, and we can actually take a look and see where we're at midsummer. The capital projects, if you were over near the high school today or anywhere near, you would have seen a boom, literally hundreds of feet up in the air. We had a 178-ton, that's what they told me, lift out there today with counterweights and tractor-trailer trucks bringing in weights and all sorts of, to take off the HVAC units off the GRB gymnasium roof, the main gym, in preparation. They shipped, I believe, Chase stopped in this morning and told me that they are shipping about a week early, the new HVAC, so they'll be arriving in the next week or two, hopefully. And on time. The original goal was August 8th, so we're going to be thereabouts. So that's good news. We also are in good shape with the unit ventilators that are going in all of the classrooms. It's been going on all year, and they're finishing up those projects this summer. And then the gymnasium work, we still haven't got the official approvals, so they are going to be doing some of they'll get the bleachers in at some point, probably early September. We've been working, we can use the back gym and outdoors for a couple of weeks. The new floor will not go in until next summer because that company is not going to be available, unfortunately, with the state going from 16 weeks when we started to 32 weeks is where we're at now. We know they're looking at it. We received notice they were looking, but we haven't got the final. The goal is to get the new bleachers put in. They'll have the painting of the ceiling and the new padding as well, and then we'll hit the remainders of the project next year with the wall painting and the floor refinishing and all that next summer. So that's the plan right now. So that's the capital projects at this point in time. At your next meeting on the 13th, I will not be here. I will actually be on vacation for the first time in 9 years, not here for a meeting. That's kind of an odd feeling for me. But Dr. Lisi and Mr. Kapani will be at the helm. You'll have LaChase will be here to provide an update on the capital projects this summer, and King will be here to provide an update on the building conditions survey. It's done every 5 years. This year we were out of cycle with the state, so this was our year finally. It's been 8 years since they had done one, but that's when you're told by the state when you do it. So we do that, and we do work, we kind of keep it going anyway. That's how we prioritize the projects. So Mr. James will be here from King & King. He'll go over the executive report just to give you the priorities. It's a living document, and we'll go from there. So it's just to get you up to speed it's about $122 million in projects. If we said we wanted to do everything that was in those projects, that's what we would need to be able to do that. I believe that was the number on the document. So he'll come and present that evening and give you a real good feel for where you're at, or where we're at as a district. So, any questions on those two things? Also, on the 28th and 29th of August, to put that in your calendars, that's a Wednesday and a Thursday. We have a board meeting on the 27th. The 28th and 29th would be our board walkthroughs that we've traditionally done around 5 p.m. on those 2 days. So just to get those on your calendars tentatively, those look like the days. I would have said the 26th, But 26th is Stuff a Bus, and so that doesn't work that evening. So we'll do Wednesdays and Thursdays, and as you know, we visit 3 to 4 schools each evening.
You said 5 p.m.?
We go from 5 to 7 p.m. or 5 to when we complete on each evening, and we try to do half the schools each time.
And did you say the ceiling painting and padding in the gym?
Fingers crossed.
September-ish?
Fingers crossed ceiling, which is a special paint.
Yep.
And then the padding at the ends of the gym and the bleachers, because the bleachers are all paid for, and the guy paid, they did them up front, so they're all ready to go, so we'll have to pull them out when it's time to put the new floor in. It'll be okay, it works.
By like September-ish for
That'll
basketball
be-
season, we're hoping.
Oh yeah, by the end of September, we should be cleared and back in there. Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. All right, good questions. The second piece is the new teacher orientation. It's August the 21st. Those of you that have attended or had the opportunity at 8 o'clock, we greet all of our new teachers in the organization. And we do introductions of all the administrators, board members that are present, so everybody can put a name to their face if you're able to be there that morning.
High school cafeteria?
High school cafeteria, 8 o'clock. It's hard to believe we're already talking about all those things, right? I should also say, on top of school readiness, staffing, knock on wood, also we've done quite well with our staffing, and our recruitment and our retention rate this year was also quite good. So I feel good about the retention, meaning those that didn't have people leaving the district. That kind of thing is something we've been monitoring since previous years. So more to follow on that. So that's good news. Thank you to Mr. Capani and for the recruitment efforts. I think our Fulton Champions probably helps to a certain extent, along with all of the other brochures and things that you're getting out there. So hopefully that's why we're getting, I'm hearing some of our peers are struggling getting, a range of candidates. So that's a good thing for us. So, and finally, Dr. Lisi, if you could speak to our reorganization update, please.
Sure, happy to do that. So just to provide you with a brief update regarding the reconfiguration process we talked about earlier, the superintendent's team was able to go over to 4th Street to look at the possibility of how we might map out the moves for the administration team to the 2nd floor. So we have a preliminary plan that we've discussed, and I think that is looking good at this point. We hope to begin that process late September. It's really predicated upon when BOCES vacates that particular floor. So again, we're talking through that process, and I think we'll be in relatively good shape for that. We've looked at Tim Wilson. I think most of you know who Tim is, as sort of the project manager for the overall move. He's part of the operations team there, and that's really kind of his role. So we've asked Tim to work with the various stakeholders that are moving, just to make sure that we can address everyone's needs and the whole moving process, just to make sure that everything is sort of in line with what we anticipate. So Tim has already started to reach out to folks that will be impacted by this, and we're working through those plans. So again, we have a preliminary plan for that and hope to address that relatively soon. One of the other issues was the whole shipping and receiving concept as part of this. That was one of the areas we wanted to address. So we've identified spaces in the lower level of 4th Street that seem to make sense for that, because as you know, we've got a loading dock there and a ramp. So we wanted to get space that made sense there. It also impacts a few folks. So we're putting together a team that can look at all of the logistics around that, because it isn't just the space. It's how do we deal with moving what is shipped to 4th Street out to the particular buildings. We want it to be an efficient process. So we're looking at that from a global sense, and we'll move through that process as quickly as possible. Again, the sooner we can get those two things done, the better, and I think we want to set up a realistic timeline for that to occur. So as soon as we have that, I'll report that to you, and we'll give you an update. One of the most important parts of this is we had an opportunity to talk with the leadership team about the potential for reconfiguration beyond the administrative moves and the shipping and receiving. And that was a valuable discussion with that team, because we wanted to look at not just our own Fulton pros and cons, but the research associated with doing such as reconfiguration. And again, that was a productive conversation. We brought up some great points. And that's a conversation we do want to continue. Again, we want to continue moving forward, but we wanted to hear their input. One of the things we brought to the table, and I'll share this with the board, was the actual research element. So we looked at other districts that went through the same process, and there's some great information online. It was good for us to see that, because as you might imagine, it's a very involved process. looking at everything from moving sixth grade to junior high and moving buildings and so on, not moving buildings, but moving grades within buildings, and how does that impact learning, how does it impact the culture, and so on and so forth. I will share that information with you. I think it's good for the board to see, so we can continue those conversations with that in mind. I think one of the things that we also took notice of was the communication plan involved in the reconfiguration of these various districts, and I'd like you to see that as well, just so you can see how this was rolled out and so on. So I think it's good for us to have that discussion. Other than that, that's really where we are at this point.
We'll provide updates at every meeting. We'll provide updates on where we're at with things.
Okay.
And that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
And one quick question. I know that you said late September is when you're thinking about moving things around.
The administrators.
Administrative
Right,
system.
correct.
But do we need that space for our students here at the junior high, like at the beginning of
Yeah, I
September?
mean,
And how does that?
Sure, we need it as soon as possible. The problem is
Right.
it's still being used by BOCES. And if they haven't
So
moved
we'll
out
be
yet,
moving
so-
around and adjusting as need be.
Correct.
Once we.
They're working with Mr.
Okay.
Kaprosky, and they're already vacating a couple different rooms here. Have you ever seen Ms. Hendrickson raising her?
You know, kids first.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
that's-
are
moved out,
adjusting
we're already
to make sure that the kids,
doubling up for 'em.
because we do need the space here.
Yeah.
And to provide that, we are moving some things around so that when school starts, we can provide those spaces and situations that kids need, as well as the therapists, counselors, and support staff working with those kids. Because it's been a challenge. They've been on carts and trying to move things around this year. So we need to.
My final comment, we are doing this in a very cost-conscious way, so I can make sure that everyone's aware of that, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on to our finance. Somebody move action 4.01, accept the financials.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 4.02, approve rates for internal claims auditor.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 4.03, approve rates for miscellaneous services, interpretation.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Action 4.04, approve contract special patrol officers, school resource officers.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Did you just give that to Mrs. Kroll?
100%.
She did.
All right, Mrs. Kroll is our second.
Yes.
I thought that's what I heard. Action 5.01, approve committee on special education.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Tim and Tim. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. For personnel, if I could get somebody to please move batching 6.01 to 6.05.
Move it. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. 6.06. Somebody move it? Move it.
Second.
So that's Jen and Tim Connors. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Did you abstain? Abstain. Passes 601. Somebody could please batch 6.07 to 6.22.
Move it.
Second.
Both Tims. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. All right. We'll move on. Wait, is there one more? Hold on. Oh, we got more. We're moving on to board forum. Mrs. Kroll. Let's see you're the bus today. Anything you want to talk to us about?
Nope, I can't think of anything.
All right. Mrs. Neva.
I'd just like to thank our students for coming in and speaking their minds and using their voices, because what they say does matter, and that is why we are here. So I was really happy that they were here and using their voices. It was good to hear from them.
I'll piggyback off hers and say I agree. He did an excellent job. I mean, he was just moving right along and very articulate, and he did a great job.
Now, he also was our Section 3
Representative to the state.
representative, and I love when little Mr. Briggs comes in. His dad was here too. When he comes in and speaks with us, because he is very articulate.
Yes.
And he made his point very clear, and you could feel the passion for what he was speaking, so that was great. Did you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Mr. DeJamore?
Just want to thank the district for allowing us to go to the Rural Conference, Rural School Conference, and the Leadership in Education in Albany. Dr. Lisi, thanks for the update on the reorg. Looking forward to that. And I think that the basketball team did a great job for making their presentation and their thoughts known.
Thank you. Mr. Connors?
I normally have something to add, but I think tonight I'm gonna go with I have nothing to add. Everybody did a great job.
That's great. Not that that's great, but Mr. Crandall?
Oh. Just thank everybody.
What? Ms. Hutchinson?
I concur with my colleagues. I think Mr. Briggs did an impressive job as always, and I look forward to hopefully having a happy resolution for all.
Definitely. I just ditto on what everybody has said already this evening. I hope everybody's summer's going well. I did enjoy, like I've already said previous, the opportunity to go to the 2 conferences last week, networking with other districts, other board members, and hearing their side. Just, it does mean a lot to hear that we're not the only ones. And one thing that I didn't mention was, Mr. Palvino always mentions how Fulton is on the forefront, and we're always jumping in, and we're always doing new things. He's right. There are some things that are being done now in school districts that Fulton has been doing for a while. And also, on the other aspect, we have not started our Parent Square yet, but I heard a lot of great things in the communication for schools that have been using Parent Square for a little while, and how it's helped communication with their teachers and creates a little less work for them. This, from what I was hearing from a couple of board members, that districts use those. So that was nice to hear too. Also, I am looking forward to our student board member being able to join us. So Santina will be starting to join us at the table starting this summer. And the process for our junior in waiting will be starting early September this year. Mr. Palvino will be speaking with Mr. Murray so that we can get that next student ready to go so that all voices can be heard.
Part of their election of officers, it's part of that whole process.
Yeah, and I know we got started late a little bit, but last year, but this year it's going right back into September, so that communications will go out. And I think also we talked about having Mr. Murray speak with the students prior to Mr. Murray, our previous principal. She always let the students know. Sometimes I felt like we kind of threw Harper, she didn't know, might not have known what was going on at the meeting. So it's nice for our students to maybe be able to get that and see what we see and know, and be prepped by the adults that is getting them ready for the meeting. So with that saying, we are going into second public forum. If anybody is interested to speak on tonight's topic, okay. Go ahead, stand up here at the podium and let us know your name.
Good evening. My name is John Johnson. I'm actually here to talk about several things that you guys have discussed tonight. One of which being the 4th Street School that you guys are going to move. My son, not my son alone, there are several kids that are being impacted by this, all of which who have autism. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with how these moves are going to impact these children, but it's going to be significant. And I'm hearing you talk about mental health and how it's important to you. And social media, that's the biggest impact of these children. And I think it's time for you guys to walk the walk and maybe pull this decision back and let these city post these kids stay there. It's going to impact their mental health. It's going to impact their education. This is a safe home for them that you guys have created. You should be proud that this is in your school district. The fact that you're removing this from here is very disheartening. I don't believe that you guys have exhausted all your efforts to get the space for storage and for administrative staff offices. The fact that that's going to be displaced for office spaces and storage is embarrassing. We're supposed to be educators here, making decisions based best upon these children's lives and futures, and it doesn't feel that happened. I've done a bit of poking around, and I found that you guys have a vacant school at 603 Erie Street. I'm asking you guys to reconsider that to be your administrative office and your storage facility, instead of displacing these children.
Mr. Provino, do you want to add anything?
No, Mr. Johnson, we've talked before.
Yes, we
We've
have.
had good conversations twice. So, and they've been good. I appreciate you reaching out.
I just, based off those conversations, the fact that these kids were used as a bargaining chip for revenue for this district. Those are words that I've heard directly. That's a fact. And we can look right to your board and get those conversations to be had. Right? That happened.
I don't recall that being.
I'm going to follow your protocol. I'm not going to name names out of respect. But I think this would be a good topic for your executive session to go into to hash that out. I'm begging you for these children to reconsider your decision to move this school. If none of you have been there to see what this school looks like, how happy these kids are, how far they have come, you really should take time out of your day to walk through those halls and see what that staff has done over there. It's mind-blowing, and you should be proud of that. I've heard that decisions are being made for all of the 3,300 and change. I probably have that number wrong. I know it's in excess of 3,000 kids. It's not all of those kids, because I know you have children that are in that school over there. So the changes that you're making here are impacting children that come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
My name is Patrick Dirk. My son is also a student at 4th Street School. My daughter did her senior project on creating a mock apartment at 4th Street School for these kids so they could learn in that school how to possibly live on their own, how to be able to do simple things, do laundry, do dishes, make a bed, anything as simple as put dishes away in their school. Now, they're going to be evicted. And I don't know if any of you ever even spent any time around any of these kids. It took almost 3 years in that school before these children felt safe, would finally start to calm down and be able to relax and enjoy it. A very simple much turn as a school bus taking a different route to their school will throw their entire day off, or a week for that matter. You are talking about displacing multiple kids to a district and a school system that is not even remotely set up for them and has no ability to change or add to them so that they can move into it and even retain a simple amount of what they have right now. As it stands, these kids are flourishing in your district. Here in full, they're doing fantastic. The teachers and the aides at that school have made strides that you can't even imagine unless you were there from the beginning and saw what actually happened in that school with those kids. I find it to be absolutely horrifying that you are ripping these kids out of this school and sending them someplace that is not even set up for them to go. This school has the amount of money and the amount of time that has been put in by the teachers, the parents, and the city BOCES into that school. If you're going to strip it down, throw those kids out, your kids from Fulton as well as mine from Pulaski and all over this county, for storage and administrative offices is absolutely horrifying. These kids need a place, they need routine. This is the basis of their education, to be able to stand and have them be able to do the same thing day in and day out is the only way children with autism learn. You cannot continually kick them to the curb just because they do not have a voice on social media like your other students here. Because I will guarantee you, if you were to say to the parents of the students in this school, sorry, we're taking that section of the school over there where your kids go, they're going to have to go to a different school. You're going to have to transport them 30 miles that way because we want that for storage. Because we need a place to put books and boxes and do shipping and receiving. I really truly hope that all of you sitting here at this board that are making this decision completely and totally reverse it and go back to what it was to allow these kids to stay there. I also hope that all of you sitting here will go to that school. It's only 1.2 miles that way, and I'd like to see, by show of hands, has anybody ever been there? Well, while the kids are there and see how they react. So have you been there from the beginning? Have you seen what they've done? To do this is to basically destroy 2 to 3 years of these kids' lives. Because they will not recover in a timely fashion like a typical student will. This is the epitome of destroying their mental health in this decision. I truly hope that all of you will regress and find a different way to do this. I would love to invite you. We're going to have another parents' meeting. I'd like to formally invite all of you to come over and sit down with the parents and hear what all the other parents have to say about it in an open forum. And go through a tour of the school and see exactly what it is and what these kids and these teachers and the parents have done in here. I firmly believe that if you did that, you spent a little bit of time with the parents and the teachers and the kids, that you would understand that this is a disgusting decision to make.
Time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you coming and speaking on behalf of your child and all the students over there. I can say from my standpoint, this decision was not made lightly, and it isn't about shipping and receiving and storage in boxes, because we do have students here as well. There's a lot that's gone into it, but I totally understand where you're coming from. I do have a nephew with special needs as well. You're right, it will take them some adjustment, but I have to believe that Mr. Todd, who has told us that teachers and the aides are going with them, they're not staying here. No, they're not.
There are, excuse me, there's a substantial amount of teachers that will not be making the trip. The aides, physical therapy, speech, most of these people are not going with it because it is too far of a drive for them to go. You are relocating them, well, I couldn't tell you, 15 to 20 miles. Some of these teachers already drive from each 30 miles to get here. At that time, why would they want to? That's a sad decision.
Well, I know that we're not moving them out until they're ready at BOCES. We would definitely not do that, but yeah, we definitely will have a conversation. But I mean, there has been a lot of thought into your children. We are not throwing your kids out just to discard them. I just want you to know that is not, I can't think that any of my colleagues would have had that thought in their head as well.
There was zero conversation with the parents that this is going to come back to the children to go there. So that I don't believe that for a second. I believe that this was a decision that was made, it was an easy grab, and it's embarrassing.
I agree. I think this was a decision that was made at the end of a calculator, not at the end of what's best for our children.
Well, keep in mind, we had students here too, so there were students' thoughts that were involved. But I really do appreciate that you're sharing your thoughts, and I will be speaking with Mr. Paldino and my colleagues. Thank you. We are moving into executive session. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, yes, so of course you may.
Sandy Dane, I'm a teaching assistant at 4th Street. Sandy Dane. Teaching assistant, that's D-A-I-N.
Thank you.
Teaching assistant at 4th Street. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about through the eyes of the student with autism. Sudden change can be a challenging part of life for everyone, but for children with autism, it can be particularly confusing and distressing. Autism is a neurological condition that can influence how a child interacts with their surroundings, including social cues and sensory input. Adapting to new environments or situations can be an especially difficult task, leading to heightened anxiety and resistance to change. Many children with autism struggle with social skills, making it challenging for them to understand and adjust to the unspoken expectations of new environments. Navigating social situations can be taxing and lead to heightened anxiety during change. Even small alterations to their daily routines can be incredibly disruptive and distressing for them. For example, something as seemingly insignificant as a different route taken to school could throw their whole day off balance. Difficulty in executive functioning, such as organizing, planning, all that, makes it harder for children with autism to adapt to new patterns and routines. This challenge can make any change feel overwhelming and unmanageable. I've been there on a daily basis. I've dealt with it on a daily basis. I can't even describe to you what they must feel, but I see it and feel it here every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, we will be moving into executive session. Thank you for everybody who joined us this evening. Brenda? Yes, did I miss something?
7:03.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, you're correct. All those in, or can somebody move that? Move it.
Who's the first one, sorry?
Tim and Lori.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. We are going to close our meeting. Action 8.01, adjournment.
Move it.
Second. Who was that second? Jen? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 700. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.